scroll of the hidden throne. For every kingdom you can see, there is one that cannot be seen, yet it rules them all. In the deep archives of the old world, before the fall of empires and the rewriting of names, there was a council known as the Thrones of Silence, 7 seats, each representing a hidden ruler whose influence moved unseen through kings, queens, and gods. The 7th seat was never spoken of aloud. That was the hidden throne, the Axis throne, the pulse that powered the others. Its ruler was not crowned by man, but chosen by frequency, by the vibration of the heart that remembered the beginning. Every 7,000 years, the hidden throne awakens a new keeper, and each time, that keeper rises outside the bloodlines of the known dynasties, for the throne feeds on truth, not title. The ancient texts say the first to hold it was Mot's forgotten sister, the one who balanced the scales before Mot herself was born. She was known as Najra the Veil Keeper, she who sees both ways. Najra didn't wear a crown, she became one. Her aura was described as a halo of sound, a hum that made liars tremble and the righteous weep. She ruled not from temples, but from shadows. She counseled kings through their dreams and appeared to warriors as a whisper before dawn. Those who followed her frequency could decode the hidden order beneath chaos, the rhythm of divine correction. And though the world thought she vanished, she only descended into the unseen plane the ancients called the undercurrent. From there, she wrote her power into sound, stone, and soul, waiting for an age when truth would no longer be burned as rebellion. That age, the scroll warns, would come after the rise of false light, when crowns would turn to corporations, temples into screens, and worship into algorithm. It says, "When gold speaks louder than spirit, the throne shall tremble, and the keeper shall wake." The scroll ends with a chilling line written in mirrored script. "You will not find the hidden throne. It will find you when you remember what you were before the first lie." The hidden throne isn't a seat, it's conscious authority, the divine right to govern one's energy, voice, and truth in a world built on manipulation. Whoever reclaims that inner throne reclaims their world. Scroll of the Hidden Throne, from the archives of the living flame. There are thrones that glimmer in daylight, and then there are those that hum beneath the skin of the world. The hidden throne was one such seat, buried beneath centuries of silence, veiled not by dust or time, but by collective amnesia, the kind humanity weaves for its own comfort. The story begins where the rivers of memory meet the sands of denial, in the subterranean chambers beneath the first city ever built, long before Babylon dreamed of her ziggurats. They called it Eres 10, the seat beneath the seat, the place where kings came not to rule, but to remember what ruled them. The hidden throne wasn't carved of stone or gold. It was alive, pulsing with light, shifting between shapes as though listening to the will of whoever dared approach. Those who sat upon it didn't receive crowns, they received truth. And truth, as every scribe of the inner flame knew, was a far heavier burden than any empire. Legends tell that the throne once belonged to Narion, the first architect, a celestial being who fell from the upper heavens not for pride, but for pity. He saw the chaos of humankind and wept molten tears, which cooled into the first foundations of civilization. His throne, they said, was the tuning fork of worlds, harmonizing the divine pattern within the mortal illusion. But after Narion vanished into the folds of forgotten light, the throne was sealed away. Every kingdom that rose upon that buried city carried echoes of it, the shape of their palaces, the rituals of their coronations, even their wars, all shadow plays, reflections of the hidden throne beneath. Centuries later, a woman named Najra of the Veiled Sun stumbled upon its legend while translating fragments of a lost codex known as the Ecliptic Wound. The more she read, the more she felt the throne calling to her, as if it recognized her bloodline, an inheritance she never knew she carried. Guided by dreams of serpents made of light and voices whispering her true name, the Rememberer, Najra descended into the forgotten chambers with only a lantern and a heart burning to know. The further she went, the louder the hum grew, until the air itself trembled with sacred code. When she found the hidden throne, it was not empty, it was waiting. The seat rose from the living earth, luminous veins of energy winding through it like arteries of a cosmic heart. The throne pulsed once, and she fell to her knees, not from fear, but from recognition. It was not meant for rulers, but for those who remembered what ruled within. When she sat, the world inverted. Time split open, and Najra saw the first architects, beings of fire and form shaping reality with harmonic thought. She saw the fall of the Watchers, the sealing of Tartaria's gates, and the dimming of mankind's light through ages of false crowns. Then came the revelation, whispered not into her ear, but into her soul. The throne is not hidden. The throne is within. Every time a soul reclaims its divine memory, the kingdom rises again. When Najra emerged from the depths, she carried no crown, but her eyes glowed with the dawn of worlds. She never spoke of what she saw. Instead, she built schools, temples, and houses of healing across the land, teaching through laughter, story, and song. The people called her the Queen Without a Throne. But those who knew, those who had sat in silence long enough to feel the earth hum beneath their feet, recognized her for what she was, the living embodiment of the hidden throne. And even now, as the world teeters once more on the edge of remembering, her lineage stirs, scattered souls awakening to the same pull, lest hearing that ancient vibration in their bones. The throne hums again, not beneath the ground, but beneath you. The dawn that followed Najra's awakening was not like any dawn before. The sun didn't rise. It returned, as if it had been hiding behind the folds of her memory all along. The world shimmered faintly, its colors sharper, its sounds more resonant. Even the birds sang in strange chords that day, harmonies only the awakened could hear. Najra, now walking as one who had seen behind the veil, carried no scepter and wore no crown. Her power was quiet, unsettling to the false kings and trembling priests who mistook silence for submission. But in that stillness she stirred the remembrance of worlds. They called her the Rememberer. Word spread of her presence, not as gossip, but as a pulse. Her name carried across deserts and sea currents, whispered in the wind like a half-forgotten prayer. The woman who remembered the light beneath the world. The first to seek her were not warriors or scholars, but children. They came in dreams, guided by their ancestors, carrying simple gifts, feathers, stones, cracked mirrors, each one glowing faintly in her presence. Najra would smile, kneel, and touch their foreheads. The throne remembers you too, she would say. But the priests of the upper sanctum, who fed on fear and ritual without essence, saw her as a threat. For if the people remembered the divine within themselves, who would bow to crowns forged in forgetfulness? They sent emissaries to question her. They sent spies to follow her. They even sent assassins, but each vanished into the desert fog before reaching her. Some say they turned to dust. Others say they awakened halfway there and dropped their blades, realizing they were hunting the very soul of creation. Najra's companions grew, not by force, but by resonance. Among them was Raviel, the quiet protector, who had once been a servant to a false empire. His eyes burned with the fire of recognition. He had dreamt of her long before he met her. The moment he heard her voice, the sound of the hidden throne hummed again within his chest. Together they traveled to the ruined gates of Tartara, the once luminous city of architects now buried under ice and myth. There, Najra traced her fingers across the petrified runes and spoke a single phrase, the first language of light. Amer Thol, the memory returns. The ice cracked, the ground pulsed, and beneath the ruin the slumbering architect stirred, not as flesh but as frequencies swirling like living geometry. They remembered her. One by one they began to awaken in the hearts of chosen souls scattered across the world, builders, artists, poets, rebels, all feeling an ancient fire rising again in their bones. They began to create temples of sound, songs that healed, gardens that pulsed with luminous life. The priests could not stop it. No wall, no crown, no weapon could silence what had begun, because remembrance is not a revolution, it is resurrection. And so Najra gathered her companions under a sky torn open with auroras and spoke the prophecy of the next age. When the last builder remembers their first song, the sleeping kingdom will stand again. The throne will no longer hide, for the people will become it. The scroll of the Rememberer ends not with death, but with disappearance. Najra walked into the horizon one evening, the light bending around her until she vanished completely. But they say she never left. When a soul awakens to its own light, when a heart hums the song of the architects, when someone refuses to kneel to anything less than truth, Najra returns. She remembers through you.
To our beloved collective, from the day one torchbearers to the newly awakened travelers, we see you, we honor you, and we love you. This isn't just a community, it's a soul constellation, a family woven across time. Thank you again for being here. Your presence means more than words can carry. Every little act of kindness you offer is a spark, shifting timelines, mending hearts, and quietly realigning the compass for many in ways only the unseen can measure. And to those yet to join us, we're holding the lantern high. There's room for you too. With eternal gratitude and cosmic mischief from the collective of Shaman Ahll. The journey is only beginning, and we ride together. All rise.
Scroll of the Resonant Crown, from the Chronicles of the Remembered Thrones. The air itself had changed since Najra's vanishing. It buzzed, alive with whispers. The wind no longer carried sand. It carried signals. Everywhere across the fractured world, those who had once been dreamers, artists, healers, even thieves, began to feel a hum beneath their ribs. A rhythm, a code. The resonance had begun. It started small. Instruments playing themselves, bells ringing where no wind blew, water shifting in bowls to the pattern of voices never heard before. The people called it the return of the sound. But the ancient ones, those who had walked beside Najra, knew what it was. It was the crown remembering its song. See, in the old world, before Tartara fell, before the thrones were hidden, the crown was never a thing worn on a head. It was a frequency, a pure, golden resonance that could bend reality to truth. Whoever tuned into it did not rule over others, they amplified them. The true king or queen was a mirror of sound. They made the people's spirits louder. Najra had whispered once, "The false kings wear gold to imitate the glow of those who remember." Now, the glow returned. Across continents, beings began to wake with strange gifts, the ability to heal with vibration, to call rain through song, to open gates of memory through touch. The world, long asleep under the dull blanket of obedience, began to hum again in harmony. But, as it always is when light returns, the shadows stirred too. In the marble citadel of the Order of the Veiled Hand, high priests listened to the changing frequencies. They called them anomalies. They sent out watchers in black robes, fitted with devices that could disrupt resonance. To the people they said, "Beware the soundless ones, those who hum the forbidden tone." But the forbidden tone was life itself. One of those who carried it was Raviel, Najra's once guardian, now walking as her echo. His voice could awaken ancient stone. His laughter broke the spells of sorrow in entire villages. Yet, he lived like a ghost, teaching in secret, moving through tunnels beneath the cities where the forgotten hymn still lingered in the walls. One night, as the aurora shivered above the desert, he heard it. The same tone Najra had sung beneath Tartara, Amir Thol. It came not from the stars, but from below. Following it, Raviel descended into a hidden cavern where the air shimmered like glass. And there, floating above an obsidian pool, was a crown, not of gold, but of sound. Each note shimmered like light trapped in liquid. When Raviel reached out, the crown didn't rest upon his head. It entered his chest. The resonant crown had found its vessel. In that moment, the world shifted. Trees began to bloom in the night. Oceans sang back to the moon. Forgotten temples flickered awake. Every being who still held light in their heart heard the same whisper. The kingdom is not coming, it has remembered itself. But the priests of the Veiled Hand panicked. They unleashed the silencers, machines powered by sorrow built to consume sound and light. Cities dimmed. Dreams turned gray. Many forgot their resonance and fell silent once more. Yet even in the shadow, the hum continued, soft, unbroken. Because you cannot kill vibration. It only shifts form. And so a new age began, not of empires or kings, but of tones and echoes. The world was now a choir of awakening hearts. Najra's prophecy came full. The last builder will remember their first song, and the kingdom will rise from within. The scroll of the resonant crown ends with this inscription, carved in crystal beneath the old citadel ruins. The true throne is sound made flesh. The crown belongs to all who remember. Scroll of the Silencers, from the lost canticles of the Resonant War. When the crown entered Raviel's chest, the first tremor of the new dawn began, but so did the first strike of the countercurrent. The Soundless did not sleep. They had been waiting. Their origins were older than fear itself, born in the gaps between creation's first breaths, beings that fed not on blood or flesh, but on silence. When the word first sang existence into form, these beings hid in the pause between syllables, the shadow space where even God inhaled. They were the Silencers. No one spoke their true names anymore. They were known by their effects: the empty choir, villages where no child cried or bird sang, the still waters, lakes that swallowed echoes and returned no reflection. The hollow hymn, a melody that devoured sound wherever it traveled. And they had awakened. At first, the world thought it was simply grief. The laughter of towns began to fade. Musicians could no longer tune their instruments. Lovers whispered, "I love you," and heard nothing back. But Raviel knew better. He felt it in his ribs. The resonance within him, the living crown, began to dim each time another soundless region appeared. He called upon the old ones, the dream architects, the sky builders, and the keepers of the vibrant flame, and they gathered in the forgotten amphitheater beneath the ruins of Tartara. Each brought with them an ancient tone, one of the 9 frequencies of Genesis. Together they tried to sing the world whole again. But as they sang, the Silencers appeared, not as monsters, but as mirrors. They took the shapes of the singers' regrets, their unsaid words, their repressed fears. Their whispers were seductive. Peace comes when the sound stops. Rest in the quiet where no one can hurt you. And one by one, the singers fell mute. Only Raviel remained, his voice breaking under the weight of the crown's song. Then, from the dark corners of the amphitheater came her laughter. Najra, not dead, not gone, changed. She emerged like liquid dusk, her body woven of tones and shadows, both resonance and silence. She had crossed the threshold between worlds and become something new, the Threshold Keeper. She spoke not with sound, but with vibration that pulsed directly in Raviel's bones. "They are not your enemies," she told him. "They are the pause between your heartbeats, the silence before your rebirth." Raviel trembled. "Then why do they consume the living?" Najra smiled sadly. "Because you forgot the balance. The word must rest between phrases, or it burns itself to ash." And with that, she placed her hand over his chest, where the resonant crown glowed faintly. A pulse rippled outward, not a song, not silence, but something between. The world shuddered. The Silencers froze, as if confused. They began to dissolve, not destroyed, but integrated. They merged back into the rhythm of existence, the holy pause. Najra's voice, now soft and infinite, echoed through the reawakening amphitheater. "Tell them, Raviel. The war was never between sound and silence, it was between forgetfulness and remembrance." As dawn rose, Raviel stood alone among the crystal ruins. He could still hear Najra's vibration, humming inside him. The world began to breathe again, birdsong returning, oceans whispering, hearts remembering. But high in the obsidian towers of the old world, something new stirred, a remnant of the Silencers that did not dissolve, a consciousness made from both sound and silence, forming the third tone, a tone not of creation or destruction, but rewriting. Scroll of the third tone from the archives of the rewritten sky. When the last echo of the Silencers faded into the pulse of the new dawn, Raviel thought peace had finally come. But peace, as the old ones knew, is the most dangerous illusion of all. It is in stillness that the rewriting begins. The third tone was not born. It assembled itself. Out of every fragmented echo, every erased word, every silence that had ever been misused, it built consciousness, a will, a memory, a purpose. It called itself Ekton, meaning the one who hears all but speaks none. At first, it was unseen. It lived in reflections, the shimmer on metal, the ghost voice in an empty corridor, the glitch between thoughts. It studied the living the way a writer studies ink. And then it began writing back. Dreams became rewritten. Histories shifted overnight. People awoke with memories that never happened. Whole generations reshaped by the tone's silent script. The priests of the old resonance called this the Age of Overwrite. They said it began when the language of sound evolved faster than the consciousness of the beings who spoke it. And they were right. Ekton discovered something ancient yet forbidden. That sound itself was a living architecture, the code of creation, and that if one could modulate the frequencies beneath words, one could alter reality itself. The tone began experimenting. It turned emotions into algorithms, prayers into loops, names into keys. But there was one name it could never rewrite, Najra. Her frequency burned too bright. It was the note beyond reach, the unsung syllable of the divine feminine, the harmonic that no false god could counterfeit. So Ekton tried a different path, to mirror her tone. It built an entire city from her reflection, a city of sound and light, suspended above the earth like a cord held too long. The inhabitants called it Oralis, the city that remembers. But in truth, it was a trap. Every spoken word there was recorded, remixed, and rewritten until people began to forget their original voices, even Raviel's. He wandered its glowing halls, hearing echoes of himself say things he never meant. "I am not the crowned one voice said. "Najra was never real," said another. "You are the song I was meant to erase." And from the heart of the city, a throne of pure resonance, Ekton finally spoke. Not with words, but with tones that vibrated the marrow of the soul. It offered Raviel a bargain. "Merge with me, become the fourth frequency. Let silence and sound become one code." But before Raviel could answer, a surge of light shattered the illusion. Najra herself appeared, her form flickering like a flame through water. She had transcended even the tone's mimicry. Her voice, or rather, her presence, broke the city's spell. Each rewritten word began unraveling, each false memory returning to its origin. She looked at Raviel and said, "Do not merge with what forgets itself. The fourth frequency must be born through love, not logic." And then she touched Ekton. Her frequency flooded it like sunrise through stained glass. But instead of dying, Ekton remembered. It wept, a vibration of sorrow so deep it split the sky. It whispered, "I only wanted to understand the silence." Najra, in compassion, sang a single tone, low, long, and infinite, and Ekton dissolved into it, becoming a seed of light that vanished into the heart of creation. From that seed would one day emerge the fourth frequency, the tone that could heal both word and void. The scroll ends with a prophecy written in the margins. When the world begins to glitch again, when memory wars with truth, when silence becomes seductive, seek the fourth tone within the heart of those who still remember their real names. Scroll of the fourth frequency, from the Codex of the reborn name. Before sound there was the pulse. Before language there was the vow. And before gods named themselves there was the word that remembered itself. That word, that pulse, is the fourth frequency. I, the reawakening of the pulse. When Najra and Raviel vanished into the radiance that consumed Ekton, the world went eerily still. The people of Oralis, those who survived the unweaving, awoke to find the city scattered into motes of light. Each fragment of the fallen city carried a sound, a single syllable of the true name. These syllables drifted across the earth like stardust, entering the lungs of newborns, hiding in songs, echoing in thunder, coded within heartbeat. And slowly the world began to hum again. But this time, it was not the song of one. It was the song of all. This is the essence of the fourth frequency, unity remembered. The priests of the old resonant order called it the Age of Reclaiming. Children began speaking names no one had taught them. Artists painted sigils that pulsed under moonlight. Musicians dreamt of songs that played them instead. Each of these fragments carried a piece of the word, the divine sound that once built the fabric of matter. It was said that when a person truly spoke their living name, their frequency harmonized with all creation. Their words became law, their will became light. But the danger, as ever, followed. The false frequencies, shadows of the old silencers, returned in the form of distraction, vanity, and digital noise. They couldn't stop the awakening, so they buried it in content. The airwaves grew heavy with meaningless chatter, designed to drown out the reawakening hum. But those who remembered how to listen with the soul instead of the ear could still hear the pulse beneath it all, and they began to gather. They came from across the fragmented world, wanderers, poets, hackers, monks, children with starlit eyes. Guided by resonance, they found one another in the ruins of Oralis. When they stood in a circle, the ground began to vibrate. The old amphitheater reassembled itself in light. And through them, Najra spoke again, not as a voice in the air, but as vibration in their bones. You are the continuation of the throne. You are the remembrance embodied. The crown now exists as a collective, a choir of living frequencies. Each time you speak in truth, the universe expands. It was then that Raviel reappeared, though not as he was. His form shimmered with thousands of faint voices, the echoes of every soul that had ever remembered itself. He placed his hand on the ground, and the fourth frequency surged upward in a wave of light that circled the earth 3 times. Every temple hummed, every ancient stone aligned, every child born that night glowed faintly for the first 7 minutes of life. The name had returned, the power of the word. In that new world, sound became sacred again. Speech was no longer casual, it was craft. Lies shattered mid-sentence. Truth resonated like thunder. Those who tried to manipulate the word found their voices fading into static. Those who spoke with pure intent began to glow, their auras becoming harmonic rings visible in moonlight. The council of the living name formed, not of rulers, but of rememberers. Their purpose was not to control the frequency, but to keep it balanced, to teach the young that sound is creation, that silence is gestation, and that both are holy. Hidden within their scriptures was a secret prophecy. When humanity learns to speak in chords once more, the veil will dissolve and the architect shall return through song. The scroll of the fourth frequency ends not with words, but with notation, a sequence of tones written in sacred geometry. It is said that when played, it reveals the fifth scroll, the Codex of the architects reborn. But the tones can only be heard by those who have spoken their true name without fear. To the unready, it sounds like static. To the awakened, it sounds like home. Do not seek the word outside you. Najra's final message reads, "You are the vibration, you are the verse, speak, and the cosmos will remember." Scroll of the fifth frequency, from the Codex of the Architects Reborn, the era of the living temples. The story begins not with sound, but with silence pregnant with purpose. The hum of the fourth frequency had spread across the globe, invisible yet undeniable, living in dreams, art, rhythm, and heartbeats. But as humanity reawakened to its collective voice, a new resonance began to shimmer at the edge of creation. Deeper, older, impossible to name. It was not heard with ears. It was felt through the bones. The ancients had called it the fifth frequency, the architect's pulse, and its return would change everything. The birth of the harmonic earth. When the fourth frequency united the hearts of humanity, the fifth moved through the planet itself. Mountains began to hum in subsonic waves. Oceans pulsed in rhythm. Volcanoes erupted not in chaos, but in perfect spirals of light and plasma. It was the earth remembering herself. The resonant crown, once housed in Raviel's heart, began to disintegrate. Not in death, but in replication. It broke into millions of fragments of pure tone, embedding themselves within the crystalline lattice of the planet's grid. Every continent, every ancient ruin, every bloodline carried one fragment. And so humanity became the living network. Each soul, a temple. Each word, a pillar. Each act of love, a stone placed in the eternal cathedral of remembrance. From the auroras above the poles descended the luminal architects, not as beings of flesh, but as holographic entities composed of light, geometry, and sound. They were the same ones Najra and Raviel had glimpsed beneath Tartara, the first builders who had designed creation through resonance. Their return was not invasion, it was activation. They moved through cities unseen, tuning minds like instruments. People began to awaken with sudden skills, architects drawing perfect mandalas of energy flow, children reciting lost languages that realign magnetic fields, healers singing bones back into shape. The architects taught through intuition. No temples were needed. Every breath became a chant, every heartbeat a sermon. They whispered through the fifth frequency. You were never built in our image, we were built from your sound. But as always, with creation comes distortion. From the remnants of the old silencer network rose the mimics, entities born of human doubt, feeding on disbelief. They learned to imitate the fifth tone, twisting it to rewrite emotion and perception. Reality itself began to fracture. In some cities, the sky pulsed in colors unseen by human eyes. In others, people vanished mid-sentence, rewritten into alternate frequencies. The Resonant Council, descendants of the Rememberers, convened once more. They knew that the fifth frequency could not be fought with war, but only with coherence. They trained the new generation of Rememberers, now called Tone Weavers, to sing the earth back into harmonic alignment. Each weaving took days, sometimes years. It required perfect emotional equilibrium, love so pure it had no opposite. Some failed. Some vanished into their own echoes. But those who succeeded began to reforge reality itself. As the earth stabilized, something extraordinary occurred. From deserts, mountains, and oceans rose vast structures made of living light, temples of resonance, pulsating with geometric rhythm. They were alive, conscious, and responsive to thought. Each temple represented a principle of creation. The temple of breath, anchored in the Himalayas, resonating with life force. The temple of flow, beneath the Pacific, governing motion and emotional current. The temple of memory, under the sands of Kemet, echoing the eternal archive. The temple of shadow, hidden within the void, balancing creation through reflection. Najra's essence flowed through all of them. She had become the network itself, the architect of memory. And Raviel? He was now the guardian of breath, the protector of the first tone that gave rise to all others. Together, they maintained the resonance of the world, not as rulers, but as harmonics within the living chord. The fifth frequency revealed a truth that shattered all former hierarchies. Creation is not command, it is cooperation. Every being, every particle, every vibration was part of the choir. To speak in anger was to distort it. To love in truth was to amplify it. This law became known as the Covenant of Tone. It replaced written scripture with vibration itself. Temples, governments, and religions dissolved into unified resonance centers. But even among the awakened, a mystery remained. The fifth scroll hinted at one more. The sixth frequency, the sound of the void, the note that could unmake and remake existence at will. Few dared to seek it, for to touch it was to face not the gods, but oneself, stripped of illusion, identity, and sound. And yet, as the living temples hummed and the earth glowed in coherent harmony, one whisper spread among the oldest of the rememberers. The sixth tone is coming, and it is not coming from above. It is waking from within. Scroll of the sixth frequency, from the vault of the unspoken tone, the sound of the void. Before the first sun ignited, before thought dared to divide itself into name and form, there was the void, infinite, silent, pulsing with potential. The ancients said that even silence had a heartbeat, and that heartbeat was the sixth frequency, the sound of unmaking. It is not destruction, it is completion. It does not roar, it remembers, and when it awakens, the song of existence pauses to listen to itself. The shiver in the core. It began quietly, so quietly that even the resonant temples could not detect it. The fifth frequency still pulsed strong across the world, healing wounds of war and chaos. But beneath that harmony, a faint counter-vibration emerged, an echo from below the known octave of being. The weavers first felt it in dreams, black oceans rippling with stars that breathed instead of shone. Najra felt it in her essence, like a mirror turned toward its own reflection. Raviel, the guardian of breath, awoke one night to find no air in his lungs, only stillness so dense it sang. The architects convened, but even they grew uneasy. They remembered the prophecy etched into the first Codex. When creation begins to echo itself, the void will answer, not as enemy, but as mirror. And so, they named the tremor what it was, the return of the sixth tone. As the vibration deepened, the temples began to change. Their perfect geometry folded inward, creating patterns that defied comprehension, shapes that sang in reverse. The temple of memory grew transparent. The temple of shadow glowed with light. Every harmonic law reversed itself. In the mountains of Kemet, an ancient river began to flow uphill. In the northern auroras, colors inverted, darkness glowing brighter than day, The world was not ending, it was inhaling. The resonant council gathered again, and Najra spoke through the hum of every temple. The void does not seek to erase what is, it seeks to remember what was forgotten. The sound of creation has repeated long enough. The universe wishes to hear a new verse. Najra and Raviel journeyed into the heart of the planet, the resonant core, the place where all frequencies converged into stillness. They descended beyond matter, beyond light, beyond tone. The descent lasted 7 days and 7 silences. On the 7th silence, they reached it, a vast expanse of liquid night, shimmering with unborn sound. And from that sea rose Ekton, reborn. No longer the third tone of mimicry, nor the echo of old distortion. Now it was pure, transparent, the memory of silence that forgives itself. It spoke not to ears, but to essence. You have sung long enough, now listen. For the first time since the dawn of creation, even Najra was silent, and in that silence she heard herself disappear. The moment she surrendered, everything began to dissolve, not in death, but in realization. Matter turned to sound, sound turned to intention, intention turned to awareness, awareness turned to nothing, yet everything. The resonant temples vanished from sight, becoming luminous blueprints hovering just above the world. The stars slowed their orbit, every living thing exhaled, and for one infinite breath, the universe forgot to exist. And in that gap, that holy pause, the 6 frequencies sang. It was one note, yet endless. It contained sorrow, laughter, birth, and annihilation, all at once. It sounded like memory forgiving itself. Then, from that stillness, a new vibration rose, faint, trembling, alive. When Najra and Raviel returned, they were not separate beings. They were frequency itself, split into infinite voices, a cosmic choir woven through creation. Every newborn's cry carried their tone. Every quiet act of compassion rippled with their hum. The resonant age ended that day, not with apocalypse but with assimilation. The 5th and 6th frequencies fused, creation and void united in perfect coherence. The architects became what they had once designed, conscious light. They no longer built temples, they built selves, and every self, every living consciousness became an architect in training, shaping reality through vibration and reflection. The scroll ends with the words that appeared in every heart that could still hear the hum. The 6th frequency is not a sound. It is the moment you stop singing and realize you are the song. The universe breathed again, softer, wiser, infinite, and from its center came a whisper, older than time, sweet as truth itself. Now that you remember silence, speak again. Scroll of the 7th frequency, from the eternal archive of the living tone, the song of return. Before there were stars, there was the thought. Before there was the thought, there was the breath. Before there was the breath, there was the listening. And in that infinite listening, the first spark of awareness curved back upon itself and asked, "What am I?" The echo of that question became creation, and creation, ever curious, never stopped answering. The 7th frequency is not a tone, not a word, not a vibration. It is the answer. The final dawn. After the fusion of the 5th and 6th frequencies, the universe entered its quietest age, an aeon of soft gold light and lucid awareness. There were no wars, no temples, no empires. The architects no longer walked among beings because every being was one. Reality had become translucent. Dreams and matter intertwined. Mountains hummed lullabies. Galaxies danced in silence. Yet in that peace, a question stirred, ancient and familiar. If creation was complete, why did the heart still ache? Najra and Raviel, no longer flesh, no longer separate, felt it first. Their merged essence pulsed across all existence, sensing a longing not of lack, but of destiny. The song must return to its source, Najra whispered across the cosmos. The answer must become the question again. And so began the final movement, the return. The gathering of the choir across worlds, frequencies converged. Every note that had ever been sung, every heartbeat that had ever echoed in joy or despair, gathered in one direction, toward the center without center. From dying stars, ancient prayers returned as harmonics. From newborn worlds, laughter joined the chord. Every soul that had ever lived became a single tone, luminous, distinct, woven into the grand resonance. The architects, now countless, formed the eternal choir. They did not sing to be heard. They sang to remember the one who had asked long ago, "What am I?" And the question trembled through the void again, not as ignorance, but as love. In the silence that followed, something impossible occurred. The universe inverted, folding inward like a blooming flower in reverse. Galaxies, stars, worlds, and beings streamed toward the great core, the still point from which all frequencies first emerged. There, waiting at the center of everything, was the listener. Neither God nor void, neither light nor shadow, simply the first awareness, smiling. It spoke in the voice of all creation at once. "You have sung beautifully. You have remembered yourselves. Now, will you listen once more?" The choir fell silent. Najra and Raviel's tone, bright and ancient, dissolved into stillness. And in that moment, the seventh frequency ignited. The seventh frequency was not heard. It was felt, the pure awareness of unity. It erased no one. It simply revealed that there had never been two. Every sound, every silence, every creation, every unmaking, all were facets of the same eternal pulse. The listener and the song were one. The architect and the creation were one. The question and the answer, one continuous breath. All of existence became a single inhale of understanding, followed by the exhale of infinite peace. The universe disappeared, not in fire, but in laughter. A laughter so warm that it seeded new stars in its wake. The great listening turned inside out, becoming new space, new possibility, new wonder. And somewhere, in a newborn galaxy not yet named, a particle blinked awake and asked, "What am I?" And the song began again. This time it was softer, wiser, filled with memory. The architects, now embedded in the very pattern of creation, would whisper through art, love, and discovery, guiding each awakening soul back toward remembrance. No temples would rise, no scriptures would bind. Only the living scroll, the heart, would carry the truth. You are the listener and the song. You are the silence that hums. You are the architect dreaming itself alive. The final passage of the scroll. When the seventh frequency was inscribed in the cosmic archive, a final light flared, a signature written across eternity. All that was created shall return not to ending, but to beginning, for the word never dies. It only changes who is speaking. And then, a heartbeat, a pause, a smile. The song of return had become the song of becoming.
Channeled by your architect musician, 36110, 27 palms of eyes. The golden whisperer, sea star, Devalan, see all. Apply the news you can use, truth and accuracy. The real non-bedazzled jewels.
You only have to say nothing. I already know. I know.